Most people don't associate produce with food safety problems or getting sick from foodborne illness. However, in this day and age, we find that more and more often produce is involved in the process. Now, this may be because it's grown in manure soils that haven't been, when the manure hasn't been treated and left long enough before it's used in production of the vegetable. It may be because it's cross-contaminated during the processing time. And there's also some things people don't realize about fruits and vegetables. First of all, an apple. Most of us rinse an apple off before we eat it, and that's good. But we think that that cleans off the dirt because the skin is smooth and even. But in actuality, if you're a microorganism, the surface of an apple is very rough and ragged and craggy, like the surface of the moon, so that the bacteria can get down in there, and even a quick rinse may not completely clean it off. And that's all right. We don't expect food to be sterile. The best thing you can do for produce before you eat it, particularly that produce that's not going to be cooked later on, is to wash it in clean, drinkable water. And for an apple, that means simply doing something like this. You don't need to use a special rinse. You don't want to use soap in your water because the residues from soap can actually make you sick, and children may be more susceptible to soap residue than adults. Now, when you get to some of the more interesting kinds of vegetables, here you have a cantaloupe. Well, you do need to clear cantaloupe off and clean them off, but simply rinsing this one with its craggy surface to begin with that feels rough to your hand is not going to be sufficient. So with something that's rough on the surface, you need a vegetable brush, and you need to scrub it all over. Now, the reason that's important is you think, well, I'm not eating the outside, but you are going to pull a knife through the outside, and the knife can bring bacteria into the center, and particularly if it's not eaten right away, there's time for the bacteria to multiply and increase in number, and you can develop a problem. Similar types of things need to be done with carrots, with potatoes, where you use a brush to actually clean them off. Now, peeling can help do that and help remove residues, but keep in mind what happens when you peel. You hold it here, you peel down, it turns around in your hand, and the part that was not peeled is now being touched by hand that's no longer clean because it's held the carrot when it's dirty. So a scrub brush, cleaning all the produce that you're going to eat is important. Even something like an orange. Again, you're not going to eat the peel, but what happens when you peel it? Wash it first so that as you peel around, your hand doesn't then recontaminate or contaminate in the first place the meat of the orange. Now, everything you can't use a scrub brush for. Some things, peaches, grapes, you're going to want to rinse in just running water. Or you can fill a sink and then have the grape lifted out of the water. Most things you're going to want to wash just before you eat them. The exception would be leafy greens. And here the best approach is to have a sink full of clear water or to wash the leaves one at a time. If you're concerned about pesticide residues or some kinds of bacteria, one of the things you can do is remove the outer leaves and throw them away. In general, however, most pesticides, particularly from commercially produced produce, are going to be something that will break down. They'll be carefully applied, and the breakdown will occur. We have actually more concern with pesticide residues with home gardeners than with things that are grown commercially, because sometimes home gardeners don't read the label and don't have a long enough lag time between the time the item was applied and the time when it's harvested for eating. If you're going to dip greens into water, make sure you break the leaves apart first. Swish them around good. You may want to do it through more than one rinse of water, and then lift them out. Don't pull the plug and let the water drain, because everything you've washed off is now going to settle right back on. Keep your produce clean. Clean water is the best way to go, and wash everything right before you eat it. Until next time, this is Barbara Brown.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.